Hey guys, I'm Combat Craig, and today we're talking about VA claims for plantar fasciitis. What is plantar fasciitis? Well, I'll take out my fake foot here. So this is the plantar fascia tissue right here. It runs from the ball of your foot all the way to the ankle. I got this thing on Amazon. If you're a hands-on learner like I am, it made a lot more sense why I was getting pain up here, and they called it plantar fasciitis because it was right in the middle of the plantar fascia tissue. So plantar fasciitis is rated under diagnostic code 5269, and the maximum rating is 30%. And this was changed a year ago. I believe it was February 7th, 2021, when they dropped it from 50% to 30%. So if you are in the middle of a foot claim and you're putting one together and you already have a rating for plantar fasciitis, you should be aware of this update because it's possible that you could get reduced in the process because the rating criteria has changed so drastically. So keep that in mind. You're going to need a diagnosis for plantar fasciitis. You're going to need current symptoms, and you're going to need a nexus linking your plantar fasciitis to your active duty service. You could do this on a direct service connection basis, secondary service connection basis, presumptive, pre-existing, or something that happened at a VA hospital. But you have to be real clear on how you are going to establish service connection. So there's basically three ratings. There's bilateral, which means it's in both feet. That's 30%. It's unilateral, which means 1 foot. That's 20%. And then if the frequency, duration, and severity of your symptoms are minor or mild, that's going to be a 10% rating. And then obviously, if they don't bother you at all, you're not going to get rated because you need to have current symptoms, current diagnosis, and a nexus. How do you prepare for your C&P exam for plantar fasciitis? The first thing I would do is study the DBQ, the Disability Benefits Questionnaire for foot conditions. This is going to be filled out on you by the C&P examiner, and this is kind of like getting the answers to the test before the test. It's good to know what kind of boxes are on the test, and he's going to be checking some of them. It would be nice to know what kind of boxes you need checked to get the rating that you deserve. Your C&P exam is an orthopedic exam, so most likely they're going to watch you walk around or hobble around. That's what happened in my last C&P exam for my plantar fasciitis claim. He didn't really put his hands on my feet too much. He didn't make me bend. But it was a hands-on versus a talk-only kind of a C&P exam. So be prepared to go hobble around the room. If you limp, you limp. If you wear a knee brace, bring your knee brace. Don't exaggerate. And, just go in there and talk to him about what your feet are like on your worst day. If you, had a breakout of plantar fasciitis and then you went to the podiatrist and you're, 4 weeks into your taping and your foot's feeling better, you don't want to talk about how your foot's feeling better now. You want to talk about what it was like at the worst point when you couldn't even walk on it at all. You couldn't even reach down and tie your shoes. You couldn't even put shoes on because it hurt so bad. I actually wore flip-flops for a while, and I really didn't move around too much. So that's what you want to talk about in your C&P exam, and it's probably going to go pretty quickly. So when you go in there, be cordial, but just talk about your plantar fasciitis. He doesn't need to know about anything else. And you need to keep him focused on the DBQ that he's going to literally be sitting there filling out on you. And you need to be kind of, knowing what he's going to be asking so you can answer the questions the right way. You might have other things going on like metatarsalgia. I have that for broken bones. I also have a calcaneal bone spur. You got to remember, plantar fasciitis is something that's very common in ex-military, right? We didn't have very good foot protection, and they beat the hell out of our feet. So it's common to have other conditions in your foot, and you want to be prepared to talk about how they affect your social and your work life, how limiting it is. You can't run anymore. You can't do the things that you like to do when you were in your 20s or 30s. You can't play with your kids because you're limited about how much you can move due to the foot pain that you're in. You want to talk about pain, you want to talk about the severity of it, the frequency, and the duration. How long? You might even keep a log, kind of like Migraine Buddy log. You could keep one of those for your foot pain. So if he asks you like how often, you want to put that down on your personal statement, your 21-4138. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to bring a plantar fasciitis log into your C&P exam. So when he's like, hey, when was your last bad day? Well, doc, other than today, here it is for the last 6 months or 5 years. It's a good idea to get as much medical evidence as you can through the VA. They seem to be a little bit better about orthopedic conditions than they are, say, mental health conditions. But either way, you need to get it, and it needs to be in the VA medical records prior to you filing your claim and prior to your C&P exam so the guy can see it. Bilateral plantar fasciitis. This is when you have it in one foot and then it jumps over and it gets in your other foot. Your right foot is overcompensating for your left foot and it's causing you to walk weird. And when you're limping on your left foot, your right foot's picking up all the slack. So when it jumps over to your other foot, you want to make sure you have plenty of medical evidence in there. And a nexus. Plantar fasciitis, secondary conditions. So there's a lot of things that can cause plantar fasciitis. Back issues, hip issues, knee issues, other leg issues. It's all connected, and your feet bear all that weight. So if you're service connected for your back, for your hips, for your leg, like I said, one foot can cause other things on the other side of your body and the other foot. So a good secondary for plantar fasciitis would be, you're service connected for your knee. You develop plantar fasciitis, you file a claim for plantar fasciitis secondary to your service-connected knee. If you already have plantar fasciitis in your left foot, you file a claim for your right foot secondary to your service-connected left foot. So it's all about how you frame it up, but you want to make sure you have the medical evidence in there to back it up. And in my case, the podiatrist, he created the nexus for me and said that my right foot was caused by my left foot. So you may need to get a nexus letter. You need to have a nexus link for sure. And the nexus link is a doctor's opinion about why this condition over here was caused or aggravated by this condition over here. That's what the nexus is. So you need to have the diagnosis, the symptoms, and the nexus. This is the DBQ for foot conditions, including flat foot, aka pes planus, and it's called a disability benefits questionnaire. So here's some, this is going to be filled out on you for sure. So you want to make sure that you review this. And I'll show you some of the parts that are going to be important for you. A lot of this stuff, the doctor fills everything out, but it's good to know what kind of boxes he's going to be looking to check. So you're going to need a diagnosis here. And if you look here on the bottom left, foot conditions, including flat foot, have been updated. This is released January 2022. They actually updated all the DBQs, so make sure you go to the VA's website and download the January 2022 edition. You don't want to give the VA a reason to deny your claim because you filled out a outdated DBQ. They actually do stuff like that, something that should be in the duty to assist, but they do it. So make sure you have the right DBQ, links in the description. And here's all the conditions here. Flat foot, plantar fasciitis, Morton's neuroma, metatarsalgia, hammertoes, hallux valgus, hallux rigidus, acquired pes cavus, malunion, non-union of tarsal, metatarsal bones, foot injury, which is kind of like a catch-all. And then if you have arthritis, which is going to happen for sure, how bad that is, what type of arthritis it is. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a diagnostic code that matches up with this DBQ, because you don't want to go in and file a claim for a condition that's not on the DBQ and that the VA doesn't rate. So it's important to look through this DBQ, see what you have, and then anticipate to see what the doctor is going to fill out for you. It's a good idea to take this to a private doctor. VA doctors usually won't do it. They might. And have one of these filled out, before you file your claim, so you have something to compare it to. You have a doctor on board. So the first part covers the diagnosis. They're going to talk about the medical history here, the flare-ups. So they actually say flare-ups, and that's what you want to be talking about. If you're feeling kind of halfway decent right now, you don't want to be talking about halfway decent right now. You want to talk about your last flare-up. Do you have functional loss or functional impairment? That's important. You're going to be asked if you have flat feet. You may or you may not. I do. Does the veteran have pain on manipulation of the feet? Yes or no, right or left side, or both sides, which is the bilateral factor. Again, there's that new date, released January 22. And a lot of these things may not apply to you. You're not going to have all these symptoms and diagnosis, but whatever you have, dig in and figure out how the VA rates it, and the symptoms, and make sure everything is documented prior to filing your claim. It's so much easier when you do this before you file your claim versus 3 months after you file it and like, oh no, I should have filled out a DBQ, or I should have studied the DBQ before I went to my CNP exam. If you do all this preparation first, you're going to have a much easier time with your claim. Trust me on that one. Let's see what else. Here's the part, section 4 here, plantar fasciitis. Have you undergone non-surgical treatment? So examples of that would be the taping and the shots. So did they work or did they not work? In my case, this box was checked yes, and then both was checked because I've had non-surgical treatment multiple times for my plantar fasciitis. And of course, it doesn't relieve the symptoms. You don't go in there saying how well your symptoms are relieved. And just FYI, it's coming back. It doesn't go away. You might correct it for a little while. It always comes back. Mine comes back in both of my feet every year. 4C here, they're going to ask you about surgical treatment for plantar fasciitis. Like I said, usually they're not going to go slicing your foot open. If they do suggest that, I would challenge that anyway. Definitely. I don't want VA doctors cutting on my feet. They might cut my toe off or something like that. And this is the key here. If the veteran has not undergone surgical treatment, was the veteran recommended for surgical intervention but was not a surgical candidate? So this is the part where they actually suggest surgical treatment, which isn't going to happen for most of you guys. But were you recommended and did you deny it? That might hurt you a little bit. But, if you need the surgery, go have the surgery. Hopefully you get a doctor that's halfway decent. Do you have functional loss due to plantar fasciitis? And there's going to be a comment section. Describe the functional loss. So it's all about frequency, duration, and severity of your plantar fasciitis symptoms. And then, of course, if you have other foot conditions, those are all going to be picked up in here as well. Here's a case where a veteran successfully argued and won his service connection for bilateral foot disorder secondary to a service-connected left knee disorder. This is the BVA, the Board of Veterans Appeals. This is where you get a docket number. It's a legal argument. You're either represented by a VSO or an attorney. And I encourage you to go to the BVA and search for plantar fasciitis and see how people successfully or unsuccessfully argued their claims. You can learn a lot from these BVA decisions. So you're going to be going up against a lawyer. And basically it says that the regional office granted service connection for the right knee. Competent medical evidence showed that the veteran's plantar fasciitis is related to a service-connected left knee. With the resolution of reasonable doubt in the veteran's favor, plantar fasciitis has been aggravated by the veteran's service-connected left knee. These are all codes. Look these up. This is the law. Definitely good to understand the law. You can just kind of read through these at your leisure. These are great things to read, and you can learn so much from how people in the past successfully argued their case, what kind of law they used, what kind of medical literature they based their argument on, what kind of doctors they got to, give a professional medical opinion. And it just kind of goes on to talk about the relationship between the knee and the plantar fasciitis. They talk about your gait. It's going to be something that's mentioned. And this is stuff that was just on the DBQ that I showed you. Abnormal weight bearing. They're arguing there was no uneven wear on your shoes. I didn't have uneven wear on my shoes, but that's not a disqualifier. But they're going to, try to poke holes in your story. The veteran was fitted with insoles and given cortisone injections in his heels for pain. So when I was saying that you can decline surgery if you're not a big fan of getting cut open, I'm not. But I definitely would not be declining the insoles, the shots, or the taping because it's going to show up in an argument like this. So you don't want to come off as, I didn't do anything, because they're just going to look at that as veteran doesn't have plantar fasciitis and he didn't try to do anything, even the non-surgical procedures that are simple that we suggested. And by the way, I get new insoles for my feet from the VA every year just to spin that wheel and make sure that my medical evidence is on point. I'll put a link to this in the description for you, and definitely look at how other veterans argued successfully and unsuccessfully so you could start figuring out how to craft your argument. Think like a lawyer. If you can get your claim filed and prove it up front, you won't need a lawyer. But you need to think like a lawyer because you're going to be going up against a VA rater and a doctor. It's a legal action. So if you have everything locked down, you'll be able to file your claim, just win it, move on to the next one. If you're trying to get into the hundo club, just get there and don't get delayed by denials, deferments, and requesting a hearing that's going to delay things for 6 years. Get in, get out, get the rating you deserve, and then defend that rating.